Hey everyone and welcome back. I think that would be really cool to have a video showing you basically the first few ideas after the release of each expansion on how to build the decks with the new cards. So for new Capenna we have at least two cards that seems to be fit in a couple of strategies. And the first one that showed up in various contents from different content creators is Body Dropper. Body Dropper is a multicolored black and red card which doesn't really do a lot of things, but seems to be good at doing that single thing. And the card seems fit in a Rakdos Aristocrats deck. So basically now we will see a couple of different lists from various content creators, and the first one is Cooper the Red with is Rakdos Sacrifice, and this list is kind of interesting because it's running a lot of removal spells in form of 4 lightning bolts and 3 cast downs, and also 2 copies of makeshift munitions. Seems also having a lot of reach because both lightning bolt and Pearl's Mirror can do damage on the player. Oh wait, also Pearl's Mirror is it can also deal damage to a creature, so it can also be considered a sort of 2 mana, 2 damage to a creature, plus a 1/1 counter on carrier feeder. Seems great. I think that makeshift munition is probably truly good here. I mean, you are not forced to play artifact lands. Maybe it's correct to play artifact lands since you are also running makeshift nations, and probably will also be better to run alongside Village Rights also Deadly Dispute, since you can also sacrifice the Deadly Dispute token to makeshift munitions. And it also fixed mana, obviously, of course. I think that another cool part about this deck is Bomb Picker, and if you're running Deadly Dispute, you can also do something like turn 1 mana creature. In example, Nested Shambler, which is the Zomber creature that leaves a squirrel token on the battlefield, and then go for Deadly Dispute on turn 2 and play Bone Picker, throw the the blood token, the treasure token. I mean, you are not with Village Rights. Maybe you are not able to cast Bone Picker on turn 2 if you have 1 red source and 1 black mana source, and Deadly Dispute can be considered a sort of mana morphose in that way, because it both draw cards and both fix the mana. That's really cool. That's really cool. The other lists are kind of different because they play a couple of different cards and can be also considered more aggressive or more conservative in certain ways. For example, Alexandre decklist is running Hissing Iguanar, so it's a different kind of reach. It deals damage whenever a creature dies, and is less focused on the card advantage since it runs only 3 copies of Village Rights. It also runs more specific removal spells in form of Flashback Marauder, the Edict creature, and Tragic Sleep and Snuff Out, which seems a weird split from my point of view. They're also running Shambling Ghast instead of the other 1 mana sacrificeable creature. they also run Sultai Emissary as 2 mana sacrifice creature. 2 mana creature that you want to sacrifice, I mean. I'm not really sure if this list is better compared to the other one, because Hissing Iguana seems really great, but the Cooper the Red list seems really good in doing a lot of synergies. I mean, munitions alongside Deadly Dispute and Room Picker could be really cool, could be really good, I mean. We can also take a look at the Rakdos Aristocrats list showed by Ullman in his recent video about 5 builds with the new Capenna's cards, and as you can see, until now we only have 2 cards in common in each list: Village Rights and Mogwai Marshal. I think that Mogwai Marshal is probably the best red card in the deck, alongside Body Dropper and probably Makeshift Munitions. And eventually, running Mogwai Marshal without Makeshift Munitions seems kind of weird. I probably think, and I think I will recommend to you to play Makeshift Munitions in Rakdos Aristocrat, because munitions is obviously good, and being able to deal 3 damage or to sacrifice 3 cards with only single cards from your end seems great. Anyway, Mogwai Marshal has always been great in a sacrifice deck, in a red sacrifice deck. The cool part about this list is having both Village Rights and Deadly Dispute, and I think is the correct approach, because Village Rights is obviously great because it costs only 1 mana, but not having Deadly Dispute in a sacrifice deck and in a big color sacrifice deck, I think it's not worth. I mean, I want to have Deadly Dispute, and not having it seems kind of a loss. So probably the best way to build a sacrifice Rakdos deck is starting from having Village Rights, Dispute, Mogwai Marshal, and then we had Makeshift Munitions, and then we chose about the other sacrifices effect. Probably we go for Carrion Feeder, since it costs only 1 mana, and it's the best way to trigger both Mortician Beetle and Body Dropper, and then obviously we play both Beetle and Dropper because they are the reason to go sacrifice. Maybe having 8 draw spells and also Makeshift Munitions will generate a better mid-range sacrifice deck over an aggressive sacrifice deck. I'm not sure, but I think that is something that is reasonable. We are also taking a look at the list shown in the Pauper MTG Japanese YouTube channel, which is great because these dudes are probably one of the few paper or tabletop Pauper content creators, and usually Pauper is mostly on Magical line, and I think that both me and you who are watching this video prefer to play Magic in real life instead of Magic Online or whatever internet platform. So their Rakdos Sacrifice deck doesn't really seem different from the previous one. Curiously, they're playing only 2 copies of Mortician Beetle and 2 copies of Body Dropper. I'm sure that splitting those +1/+1 counters creatures is not really great, but they are playing Mir Servitor, which seems good enough. I think that Mir Servitor, okay, that's cool to have a 1 mana creature that if you have another copy on the graveyard, so you basically need 1 copy on the graveyard and 1 copy on the battlefield, and if you have two copies, you can return or those copies from the graveyard to the battlefield, so basically you reanimate them. Okay, is cool because you have a lot of sacrifice effects, but you need 2 copies, and you need that at least one copy survive, and you need also that the opponent doesn't have any graveyard date, and I think that's probably better to have sacrifice 1 mana creatures that doesn't require a lot of favorable situation to do much more than just have 1 card that you need to sacrifice. In example, the Shambling Ghast zombie card is better because you can choose to destroy one of opponent's creatures or to create a treasure token. And you can also try to play the 1 mana creature that just leaves at 1 token on the battlefield, and that's just better in my opinion. Anyway, the other list shown in the video is Sticky Fingers, so basically mono red aggro with the namesake card, and I'm not a fan of Sticky Fingers because I think that yes, it does a lot of things, but it doesn't do anything relevant in a positive way. Okay, if the enchanted creature dies, you draw a card. The creature has now menace, so it's something like worst trample or worst flying, and also the creature when this damage create a treasure token. But those stuffs doesn't really match each other real well. Or okay, menace plus doing something when the creature deals combat damage to the opponent is great, but it's just creating a treasure token, and you're just replacing the enchantment only when the creature dies. So you are losing 1 card, something like 2 cards to get back only 1 card, which is bad. Anyway, menace is probably the main reason to play this card. I think there's the other part of the cards, of these cards are just something which comes along, but if you want to play Sticky Fingers is mostly or only for the menace. So the deck is something like mono red slide, mono red aggro, red the queens, with only 2 copies of Goblin Bushwalker? Why? You are also running Cooldo's Rebirth. There's no reason to play less than 4 copies of Goblin Bushwalker. I think that I all the times want to play more than 4 copies of Goblin Bushwalker. Yeah, so it's just a straightforward red aggressive deck with a low mana curve, only 14 lands because they play Latius Beetle. They're also playing Gold Hound, and I think that Gold Hound is similar to Sticky Fingers. It does a lot of things, but it doesn't really do a lot of good things. I mean, okay, First Strike and Manners are good in other 1 mana creatures, and sacrificing to generate another mana is just a worse Lotus Beetle because it costs 1 mana and you can't sacrifice in the same turn as you play it. Also, you aren't able to first attack and then in the second main phase sacrifice the creature because you need to tap it to attack, and you can't sacrifice to add 1 mana unless you tap it. So it's more a draft filler from my point of view. Anyway, the deck is cool because it's trying to do some things like the different from a mono red deck. Okay, slightly different because they play something like Experimental Synthesizer alongside Crack the Earth. They're also running Raise, so it's something like mono red Ponza without big creatures. Because they're running 8 Ponza spells that cost only 1 mana. And it's cool, but they're running only 14 lands, so it's just weird. Also, they're not running Rites of Flames or any other card that seems cool, besides Lotus Petal, I mean, that would be eventually cool in this kind of deck, and I don't see how Sticky Fingers could be good here, unless you want to play Sticky Fingers mostly for the Lotus Petal, because they generate a lot of Lotus Petals. The deck is just weird, but it's also running something very cool in their sideboard, which is Latula's Orders. I think I really like Latula's Order, but I'm not seeing any way to play the card besides having something like I want to destroy my opponent Enforcer each turn. The card is cool because it can enchant at instant speed the creature, but I don't want to play it in Boros probably. And no, wait, probably the only way to play it is Boggles or something like Boros Heroic or Mono Red Heroic. If you are running Gorilla Shaman in your Mono Red Heroic deck, probably the Latula's Order is much better because it triggers Heroic, it doesn't need you to cut creatures or any other pump spell. Can be also considered a sort of pump spell because it's a non-creature spell, so it triggers both Heroic and eventually the other confine creature, that the one with which trigger whenever you play a non-creature spell and not an instant or sorcery spell. And its effect is great with Trample or any other card. Also keep in mind that this kind of red aggressive decks usually straightly dies from Crackdown Shaman, and nowadays Affinity lists are playing a lot of indestructible lands and also are playing a lot of cheap artifacts in form of, for example, Blood Fountain, Chromatic Star, and also Echo Wellspring. Echo Wellspring costs 2 mana, but it replaces itself when you sacrifice it, so you really want to sacrifice it whenever you have the chance. Then we can also take a look at Ponza, which is a deck that I also tried, and well, this is my list. It's kind of different to the other ones because I don't like Lightning Bolt or Thermocast because I found them unnecessary, because Thermocast is mostly good against matchups which are favorable for Ponza, and Lightning Bolt, in my opinion, doesn't really do anything relevant or isn't just enough, because against those matchups where they play a lot of little creatures, we prefer free Cannonade, and having only a Lightning Bolt probably doesn't do enough. And I also need some more room to play something like Reckless Impulse, which I found really great in 4 copies, because not having Bonder's Ornament makes this deck really weak in the middle late game. And then I'm running Mold Chamber because in my opinion is just much better compared to Thermocast, because it can also destroy non-lands permanent, for example artifacts or enchantments, and it leaves a body on the battlefield, which is the most important part about the card, I think. Mold Shambler just do too much, from my opinion, that this deck needs, so having Mold Shambler instead of Thermocast, in my opinion, is better. Jewel Thief, anyway, is the new Capenna card, new addition. Basically, it's just a extra body, which, in my opinion, aligns well with the deck, because Ponza is a sort of rock deck, so a mid-range shell which tries to go faster and more aggressive compared to other or traditional style mid-range decks. And Jewel Thief is a turn 2 play which can generate extra mana, it fixes the mana, and as both Vigilance and Trample that can be good. The card isn't really great, but is good. So if you want to play Ponza, just try Jewel Thief. If you don't like it, don't play it anymore. You are losing a lot. Another player that tried Ponza with Jewel Thief is SnapBolt. SnapBolt tried Ponza with Mulldrifter because he truly liked Mulldrifter in this kind of shell. I think that Mulldrifter is not worth only because it cost blue. If it was green or red, would obviously a great addition for the deck, but I don't really want to splash only just for Mulldrifter, because in a lot of matchups I want to sideboard out Mully, Acid Moss, and the other land denial spells. Anyway, SnapBolt is in his list is running only Mully, Acid Moss as main deck land denial spell, and they're also landing Lightning Balls because Lightning Balls is staple in 4 copies of nowadays Ponza lists, and they're also listing 4 copies of Jewel Thief because as content creators often we need to play a lot of bad cards or a lot of new cards just to create content or just because we want to try those cards. As I said, Jewel Thief is cool and whole, but isn't really necessary. It's great. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's bad. Often I also sideboard out Jewel Thief because I need better cards in a lot of matchups. We take a look at the Boros Bully list that I tried this week on Twitch. I was running both Gatering Frog, which is the 3/1 3 mana Squadron Oak that doesn't fly, and Rafine's Informant. I think that having more discard related cards in Bully is actually good, and I found, weirdly enough, Palace Sentinel not real great. Maybe because the current metagame doesn't show a lot of deck which I want to have Palace Sentinel, or anyway because I'm not running a lot of removal spells, so maybe I want to try cutting the Palace Sentinel to add the 4th copy of Drilling Discovery and the 3rd copy of Fear Temper or Journey to Nowhere, because I was running only 2 copies of Oblivion Ring and seemed kind of weak because I had only 2 copies and it cost 3 mana instead of 2. I was running Oblivion Ring obviously because I preferred to have an extra answer to enchantments or to artifacts, because makeshift munition is a thing nowadays, and being able to answer main deck makeshift munition seems cool. I tried Refine's Informant instead of Travel Inspector and Gathering Throng instead of Seeker of the Way, because there aren't a lot of aggressive deck against those I want to have Seeker. I found that in this kind of shell is good to have to maximize the discard spells and the cards that they want to discard. So for that reason, maybe it's worth to have these 4 copies of Drilling Discovery and the 3rd Fear Temper. Anyway, in my opinion, Bully is still a reliable deck since you have looting doing funny stuff, and also because you have Rally Defeasant plus Battle Screech. The deck can draw a lot of cards, and Gathering Throng can be also good because from my point of view, Squadron Oak plus looting was probably the best combo in the deck, and being able to do the same thing but with much more consistency just gave more consistency to the deck. I'm not sure anyway if it is the right way to play Boros Bully, because I'm not a big fan of the deck. I actually don't really enjoy to play against it. It can be really annoying because they have a lot of flying creature, a lot of tokens, prismatic strands and stuff. So usually I lose to Bully having a lot of dust to dust or having a lot of battle screech. Then we finished this video, finally having a look at the last 4 lists from the Channel Bible article. We have Golgari Aristocrats with Blood Brewer and the fight effect from New Capenna, Prize Fight, because Blood Brewer triggers whenever you sacrifice any kind of permanent. And the New Capenna New Capenna treasure spells seems to matter something with Blood Prayer, so you can sacrifice your token and randomly put a +1/+1 trigger on Blood Prayer. Seems great. In my opinion, anyway, running red removal spells instead of black removal spells in a deck with black mana is just bad. Oh, Blood Beer, it also triggers with the fetch lands, so that's cool. And with the treasure token from Jeweltist that they are also running in this sacrifice in this aristocrat list. I don't really want to take a look at this Goblin combo deck, since it doesn't do anything different compared to the traditional Goblin combo deck. It's running Witty Rostmaster, which is a 3 mana 3/2 creature, the devil one, which deals 1 damage when a creature you control enters the battlefield. So it's just an alternative win condition. In my opinion, it's not necessary. I always prefer to have the second copy of Makeshift Munitions and the singleton copy of Shred Memory, because Shred Memory is a tutor spell that is able to fetch for much more, for a lot of cards. So basically you can fetch Putrid Goblin, you can also fetch First Day of Class, which is an important part, and you can also fetch Makeshift Munitions. So with a singleton copy of Shred Memory, you are able to fetch a draw spell in form of Deadly Dispute, an important card which is First Day of Class, and First Day of Class isn't the only part of the combo that you aren't able to pick from your deck with Goblin Matron. And you can also exile your opponent Prismatic Strands or whatever cards. So in my opinion is much important. Talking about another card with the treasure part, we are talking about Fake Your Own Death, which is an ending evil which generates a treasure token. In Zubera Storm, I think it is important because similarly to Metamorphose or Deadly Dispute, can be an important combo part which also fixes the mana. So basically you aren't paying 1 extra mana to do the same thing as Anti-Evil, but you are paying the same mana cost and they are also fixing the mana for your next spell, which is important in my opinion, because Zubera Storm is a mono black deck which is splashing for blue for the draw cards Zubera, and also is running the red Zubera to just have just as win con, because the red Zubera deals damage. The last list in this article is Golgari Lands. I think that this deck isn't playable at all. I mean, it's cool and whatever, but isn't competitive. I mean, you can play it in your local game store just to have a for-fun match, but don't expect it to get to have a result in any competitive event or MTG or Pauper League. I mean, the deck is cool, does a lot of cool stuff. You are running Tilling Trifle, which is a green Multi-Drifter, and you have cool cards in form of Skula, Grove Dancer, and Jedi Offshot. That those cards are comboing with Marauding Blight Priest. Okay, cool and all, but you are only trying to do non-interactive damage by doing only 1 or 2 damage each turn. I think that this deck could be better if you run something like more spells that help you doing extra line drops each turn if you are aiming to win throughout Marauding Blight Priest. And okay, you have Winning Way, you have also recreate spells in form of Siphon Life and Raven Crimes, but Winning Way doesn't really do anything besides drawing lands. Okay, you can draw 4 lands, but probably it's just better to run Night Whisper and any other traditional style draw spells, because you also want to draw your non-land spells, your non-land cards. Okay, so we talked about those new decks long enough. I think we will see you in the next week with the upload from Twitch, because I streamed Boros Bully and I haven't yet uploaded. I haven't yet published it on YouTube. I thought that I did it on yesterday, but apparently I did not, so I publish it tomorrow. And also tomorrow I was also streaming on Twitch the Pauper with Sprint Wheel event, which is a free-to-play 3 rounds tournament on Magic Online. Guys, thank you for watching this video and see you.